What's going on, guys? I'm Tyler, and in continuing my series of Disney movie reviews, I'm here to let you know that Fantasia is no perfect movie. And Fantasia is a series of 8 silent short films set to classical pieces of music. The music was, for the most part, performed by the Philadelphia Orchestra, conducted by Leopold Stokowski, and hosted by music critic Deems Taylor. And Fantasia all started with Walt Disney wanting to make a short film about the Sorcerer's Apprentice, but with Mickey Mouse. And Stokowski was so eager to work on it that he was willing to work for absolutely nothing, which is fitting because once it became more expensive just to make this one short, Disney decided to make up for that by turning it into a feature film where it was nothing but shorts set to classical music, the concert feature, so you will. And he hired Deems Taylor, who was well known for promoting this type of music, to select certain pieces. And then once he selected those pieces, the animators would listen, they would come up with ideas. Some of them were full blown stories, some of them were based solely around the images that they came up with when they were listening to the music. And I always enjoyed this movie as a little kid when I was like 4 to 6. My babysitter had both of them. I kind of preferred 2000 as a kid because the shorts were, for whatever reason, they just stuck with me more. But a couple of years ago, out of the blue, I decided I'd give it a try just for the hell of it. And I noticed something that I don't think that many people either realize or talk about. Fantasia, at its core, is an environmental movie. And it's probably the least preachy environmental movie ever, considering the themes are told through visuals and music as opposed to dialogue. You can look at the most obvious example of this being the Nutcracker Suite, where fairies are turning summer to fall, fall to winter. You have just about anything from these fairies, fish, flowers, all doing these beautiful and swift ballet routines. And it can all be interpreted as a celebration of just how the most mundane things about life and nature are beautiful and breathtaking to look at. But you could also look at The Sorcerer's Apprentice, where Mickey turns a broomstick to life just to do his own chores for him, as an example of how technology makes us overly dependent and lazy. And this was back in the 40s. These themes were way ahead of its time in regards to filmmaking. But filmmaking aside, how are the shorts? And as most Disney anthologies that I've reviewed, I'm going to talk about my 3 favorites in particular. The first one being Bach's Toccata and Fugue, which for me was the best one they could have started off with because it prepares audiences for some of these shorts not having a beginning, middle, and end in terms of characters or development at the very least. It'll all center around the feelings that you experience through the music and how well the imagery that the animators come up with match up with your feelings. It's a great short to have the audiences ask themselves, what do these images mean? What's the rest of the movie going to be like? How does this music make me feel? Those are great questions for audiences to ask themselves. In fact, watching this short is kind of like being at an art exhibit. You look at it, you ask yourself these questions, and the more you think about it, the more you can come up with your own answers. And that's the beauty of the majority of these shorts anyways. The Nutcracker Suite has always been my personal favorite because I was already a big fan of the songs Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairies and the Russian Dance. Those are still the highlights of the short for me. I love the routines that they choreographed through ballet. I will admit, though, the Arabian Dance and Dance of the Flutes I felt went on a little too long. It's hard to help because those pieces are a lot longer and more slowly built up, so I don't really fault the animators for that. But having Waltz of the Flowers be the finale was beautiful. And the great thing about this short is that it's small scale story and characters with large scale visuals and music, and that's what makes it really entertaining. And the same thing with The Sorcerer's Apprentice. The music is incredibly catchy. The themes, as I said before, were way ahead of its time. And even though Mickey is technically doing really selfish things in this short, you can still kind of identify with him because he doesn't act out of any malicious intent. He just wants to rise above the position that he's in as an apprentice. He wants to be on the same level as his master. It's an overly ambitious side to him that I think most of us have experienced for ourselves at some point in our lives. Now, this was actually the first movie that I saw in preparation for my Disney reviews. I thought I'd start it off with a bang, talk about a classic that casual audiences weren't really familiar with anymore, kind of like with Bambi. But as I was watching it, I knew it was good, but the pacing just seemed off in every single short, and A part of me wondered if that was just the mood I was in as I was watching beforehand, so I thought, okay, well, I'll focus on other movies that haven't really gotten much attention. I'll come back to this one and talk about 2000 afterwards, and I watched it again, and I gotta be honest, the exact same feeling happened. It was good, but the pacing was so drawn out needlessly in so many different parts, in each short especially. And I knew that if I was going to say that in this video, people would go, well, they're following the songs as closely as they can. And they absolutely are, and to their defense, they never used the entirety of each song. They couldn't. I mean, the Pastoral Symphony in Mount Olympus, that's like 40 minutes long. It's a miracle they got away with 10 to 15 minutes that they did. But that is kind of the issue. As great as this music is, there are a lot of segments in them that are either really repetitive or just have no build-up whatsoever. And there are a lot of shots in each short that feel like filler. Shots that I felt like could have been replaced with more silhouette shots of Stokowski and the orchestra, because those were so well done. In fact, some of those shots were more well done than some of the animated bits. Hell, I've seen a deleted short that didn't even make it into Melody Time, Claire de Lune. That was a fantastic short, and it was a nice combination of the orchestra and the animators being characters in the short. And I'm just like, why didn't you just do most of that? That would fill in the gap very nicely. It wouldn't feel as if you were just stalling for time so that each big buildup would lead to something epic. And I'd be fine with that if I didn't know going in where each story was going to go. But that's the other big problem, and it centers around Deems Taylor as the host. He's overall a good host. He is charismatic. You can tell he cares a lot about this music and that he has a lot of passion for this genre. But his introductions to each short literally spoil what happens. There's no mystery to it. There's no intrigue whatsoever. In fact, the Disney Plus version that's 2 hours long, that's the roadshow version. It's not the one that they put out on VHS and DVD where they trimmed out half of his introductions and left it more of a surprise, which kind of matters. I mean, not all of them are abstract stories where we literally have no idea where it's going to go. In fact, the majority of the shorts in these are stories with 3-act structures. I mean, look at the Nutcracker Suite. The whole theme is how it goes from summer to fall, then to winter. Night on Bald Mountain with Ave Maria. The first act is just Bald Mountain, second act is a mixture of both, and the third one is simply Ave Maria. So there's more structure to it than we realize, and because of that, and because you spoil what's going to happen before we even see it, there's not really much to be surprised by. Now, I have no problem saying that Fantasia is one of Disney's best technical achievements. It absolutely is. But those achievements kind of get in the way of the entertainment value in regards to its pacing and for the element of surprise. So, nevertheless, I still did enjoy Fantasia, and I would highly recommend it to anyone. And for all those reasons, I'm going to give Fantasia a 3.5 out of 5. Guys, thanks as always for watching. If you have seen Fantasia, let me know in the comments below what you thought of it. Be sure to stay tuned for more Disney reviews because I am getting close to finishing up all the 2D hand-drawn films. And be sure to like and subscribe. Take care.